Learning to speak English fluently doesn't require rushing through complicated lessons or memorizing endless grammar rules. Instead, the most effective path to confident, natural English involves a simple yet powerful technique: slow, deliberate speaking practice through shadowing. This method allows your mind and mouth to work together, building neural pathways that make English feel automatic rather than forced. Shadowing is the practice of listening to native English speakers and repeating what they say, matching their rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation. When done slowly and mindfully, this technique transforms your speaking ability from hesitant and uncertain to smooth and confident. The beauty of slow English practice lies in its accessibility. Anyone can do it, regardless of their current level, and the results compound over time through consistent daily practice. Understanding the shadowing technique. Shadowing originates from language learning methods developed for interpreters and diplomats who needed to achieve near-native fluency quickly. The technique involves listening to spoken English and immediately repeating it, like an echo or shadow following the original speaker. Unlike traditional repetition exercises where you pause the audio, true shadowing happens in real time or with just a slight delay. The slow approach to shadowing makes this powerful technique accessible to learners at all levels. By slowing down the speech, you give yourself time to notice subtle details: how native speakers connect words, where they place emphasis, and how their voice rises and falls naturally. This awareness is crucial because fluency isn't just about knowing words, it's about delivering them with the right rhythm and flow. When you practice shadowing slowly, you're training multiple skills simultaneously. Your ears learn to distinguish English sounds more accurately. Your mouth develops muscle memory for English pronunciation patterns. Your brain begins to internalize grammar structures without conscious effort. Most importantly, you build confidence as you realize you can actually sound like a native speaker, even if it's just for a few sentences at first. Why slow practice beats fast learning? In our fast-paced world, there's a temptation to rush through language learning, trying to cram as much vocabulary and grammar as possible in short bursts. However, neuroscience research consistently shows that slow, deliberate practice creates stronger and more lasting neural connections than rushed learning. When you speak slowly, you engage your conscious attention more fully. This focused attention is essential for learning because it signals to your brain that this information is important and worth encoding into long-term memory. Fast practice, by contrast, often involves surface-level processing that doesn't stick. Slow practice also reduces anxiety, which is one of the biggest obstacles to language learning. When learners feel pressured to speak quickly before they're ready, stress hormones flood their system, actually impairing their ability to access vocabulary and construct sentences. By removing time pressure, slow practice creates a calm mental state where learning flourishes naturally. Additionally, speaking slowly allows you to catch and correct mistakes immediately. If you're racing through sentences, errors fly by unnoticed and can become ingrained habits. But when you take your time, you notice when something doesn't sound quite right, and you have the opportunity to adjust before the incorrect pattern becomes automatic. The science behind calm confidence. And confidence in speaking English doesn't come from never making mistakes. It comes from feeling comfortable and relaxed while speaking, regardless of occasional errors. This calm confidence emerges naturally from slow, consistent practice because it rewires your emotional response to speaking. Every time you practice slowly and successfully repeat a phrase or sentence, your brain associates English speaking with positive feelings rather than stress. This positive reinforcement accumulates over weeks and months, gradually transforming your emotional relationship with the language. Eventually, speaking English feels natural rather than nerve-wracking. The concept of calm confidence is particularly important because anxious learners often speak too quickly, trying to get through sentences before their nervousness overwhelms them. This creates a vicious cycle where fast, anxious speech leads to more mistakes, which increases anxiety further. Slow practice breaks the cycle by proving to yourself that you can speak English well when you give yourself adequate time. Research in motor learning, which applies to language production since speaking involves precise motor control, shows that practicing at 70 to 80% of your maximum speed produces better long-term results than always practicing at full speed. This sweet spot allows you to maintain good form while still challenging yourself, and it's exactly what slow English practice provides. Building your daily practice routine. Consistency matters more than intensity when developing English fluency. A dedicated 15 to 20 minutes of slow shadowing practice every single day will produce better results than occasional marathon study sessions. The key is making this practice so simple and enjoyable that it becomes a natural part of your daily routine. Start by selecting appropriate materials for shadowing. Look for content that interests you personally, podcasts about your hobbies, videos on topics you care about, or stories that capture your imagination. When you're genuinely interested in the content, practice feels less like work and more like entertainment, which dramatically improves consistency. The ideal pace for beginners is about 0.5 to 0.75 times normal speaking speed. Most video and audio platforms allow you to adjust playback speed, making it easy to find your perfect tempo. As you improve, gradually increase the speed, but never sacrifice clarity for quickness. It's better to shadow slowly with perfect pronunciation than to rush through with sloppy articulation. Create a comfortable practice environment where you won't feel self-conscious about speaking aloud. Many learners practice in their bedroom, bathroom, or car, anywhere they can speak freely without worrying about being overheard. Some people enjoy practicing outdoors during walks, using headphones to listen while quietly repeating phrases to themselves. The perfect shadowing process, step by step. Begin each practice session by listening to your chosen content once without attempting to repeat anything. This initial listen-through allows you to grasp the overall meaning and get a feel for the speaker's rhythm. Don't worry if you don't understand every word, focus on the overall flow and melody of the speech. For your second listen, start shadowing by repeating after the speaker with a delay of 2 to 3 words. This slight delay gives you time to process what you hear before reproducing it. Don't try to be perfect. Focus on mimicking the speaker's rhythm and intonation, even if you occasionally miss or mispronounce words. During the third repetition, pay closer attention to specific elements like word stress, linking sounds between words, and the rise and fall of the speaker's voice at the end of sentences. Native English has distinct patterns. Stressed words are louder and longer, while unstressed words become shorter and softer. Capturing these patterns is essential for natural-sounding speech. After 3 or 4 complete shadowing passes, select specific sentences or phrases that challenged you and practice them in isolation. Repeat these difficult sections 5 to 10 times each, gradually increasing your speed while maintaining accuracy. This targeted practice on challenging elements accelerates your overall progress. Finally, end each session by shadowing the entire content one more time at a slightly faster speed than you started with. you'll likely notice immediate improvement, which provides positive feedback and motivation for your next practice session. This progression within a single practice session, from slow and careful to faster and more confident, mirrors the long-term journey toward fluency. Common mistakes and how to avoid them. One frequent mistake is trying to shadow content that's too difficult. If you're constantly struggling to keep up or understand more than 30% of the words, the material is probably too advanced. Choose content where you understand at least 70% of the vocabulary, allowing you to focus on delivery rather than comprehension. Another pitfall is practicing too quietly or only in your head. To develop proper pronunciation and build confidence, you must actually vocalize the words at a normal speaking volume. Mental practice has some value, but it doesn't develop the muscle memory or overcome the psychological barriers that come with actually speaking out loud. Many learners also make the error of ignoring intonation and rhythm in favor of focusing solely on individual words. English is a stress-timed language where the rhythm and melody of sentences carry as much meaning as the words themselves. A sentence spoken with flat, monotone delivery sounds robotic and unnatural even if every word is pronounced correctly. Perfectionism can also sabotage progress. Some learners restart constantly whenever they make a mistake, preventing themselves from ever completing a full passage. Instead, when you stumble, simply continue with the speaker and catch back up. The goal is to develop flow and confidence, not to achieve perfection on every attempt. Finally, avoid practicing the same content exclusively for too long. While repetition is valuable, exposure to variety in accents, topics, and speaking styles helps you develop well-rounded English skills. Rotate between different speakers and content types to prevent your practice from becoming stale and overly narrow. Choosing the right materials for your level. Beginners should start with content specifically designed for English learners, such as slow-speed news programs, basic podcast episodes for learners, or children's audiobooks. These materials use simplified vocabulary and clearer pronunciation, making them ideal for building foundational skills without overwhelming frustration. Children's content, despite being designed for native speakers, offers excellent practice material for adult learners. Stories like picture book narrations or educational programs present language in clear, expressive ways with natural repetition that reinforces learning. Don't feel embarrassed about using these resources. They're pedagogically sound tools for language acquisition. Intermediate learners benefit from standard-paced content on accessible topics. Consider podcasts about everyday life, YouTube channels explaining hobbies or skills, or audiobook versions of books you've already read in your native language. Familiarity with the content reduces cognitive load, allowing you to focus more attention on pronunciation and delivery. Advanced learners should seek out challenging, authentic content, such as academic lectures, professional interviews, or news analysis programs. At this level, shadowing helps you master sophisticated vocabulary and complex sentence structures, while refining your accent toward native speaker quality. Regardless of your level, prioritize content with clear audio quality and single speakers rather than multi-person conversations. Shadowing works best when you can focus on one consistent voice without competing sounds or overlapping dialogue. Save conversation-based content for passive listening rather than active shadowing practice. The role of emotion and expression. One often overlooked aspect of fluent English is emotional expression. Native speakers don't deliver sentences like robots reading a script. They infuse their words with emotion, emphasis, and personality. When shadowing, try to match not just the words, but the emotional tone behind them. If the speaker sounds excited, allow your voice to convey that same excitement. If they're explaining something seriously, adopt a more somber tone. This emotional matching does more than improve your intonation. It helps you internalize the cultural context in which different emotions and tones are appropriate in English. Many learners speak English in a flat, affectless manner because they're concentrating so hard on grammar and vocabulary that they forget about emotional delivery. But this creates speech that sounds unnatural and even uncomfortable to native speakers. By incorporating emotion from the beginning through shadowing practice, you develop more natural, engaging communication skills. Expression also involves facial movements and gestures, even though these might seem invisible when you're practicing alone. English speakers use more expansive facial expressions than speakers of many other languages, and these facial movements actually affect pronunciation. Smiling while speaking certain words or phrases changes your mouth shape and can improve your accent naturally. Tracking progress and staying motivated. Language learning progress often feels invisible day to day, but becomes obvious over longer time frames. To maintain motivation, record yourself shadowing the same content at regular intervals, perhaps once a month. When you compare recordings from 3 or 6 months ago to your current performance, the improvement becomes undeniable and deeply motivating. Keep a simple practice journal where you note which materials you've worked with and any specific pronunciation challenges you've overcome. This tangible record of your learning journey provides encouragement during moments when progress feels slow. You can also jot down new phrases or expressions you've learned through shadowing that feel natural and useful. Set small, achievable goals rather than vague aspirations like become fluent. Specific targets such as shadow a 5-minute video perfectly at 0.75 speed or practice for 15 minutes every day this week create clear markers of success that builds confidence through regular achievement. Consider finding a practice partner or joining online communities of English learners. Sharing recordings of your shadowing practice, if you're comfortable, or discussing challenges and breakthroughs as others creates accountability and social support. Language learning can feel isolating, but it doesn't have to be a solitary journey. Celebrate milestones, no matter how small. The first time you shadow an entire paragraph without stumbling, or the moment you realized you understood something in English without mentally translating, these victories deserve recognition. Positive reinforcement strengthens your commitment and makes practice feel rewarding rather than obligatory. Overcoming plateaus and challenges. Every language learner eventually hits plateaus where progress seems to stall. During these periods, slow shadowing practice becomes even more valuable because it provides structured activity even when motivation wanes. The routine itself carries you through times when learning feels frustrating or stagnant. If you feel stuck, try changing your practice approach. Switch to different content types, adjust your speed, or focus on a specific aspect of pronunciation you've been neglecting. Sometimes a fresh perspective on the same technique reignites progress and enthusiasm. Physical tension can impede speaking performance, especially around the jaw, throat, and shoulders. Before practice sessions, spend a minute doing gentle stretches and relaxation exercises. Consciously release tension in your face and neck. Relaxed muscles produce clearer, more natural speech. Remember that language acquisition isn't linear. You might have breakthrough moments followed by periods where you feel like you're backsliding. This is completely normal. Your brain is consolidating learning during what feels like stagnation. Trust the process and maintain your consistent practice routine, and forward progress will resume. If pronunciation of specific sounds consistently frustrates you, research targeted exercises for those particular phonemes. Many sounds that don't exist in your native language require specific tongue or lip positions that you can learn through focused practice. Addressing these individual challenges accelerates your overall progress. Integration with other learning methods. While shadowing is powerful, it works best as part of a balanced approach to English learning.
Combine your daily shadowing practice with other activities like reading English texts, writing in English, and engaging in actual conversations with native speakers or fellow learners. Reading reinforces vocabulary and grammar patterns that you encounter in your shadowing materials. When you've shadowed content and then see the same words and structures in written form, the dual input strengthens your internalization of those elements. Consider reading transcripts of videos or podcasts you've shadowed for this synergistic effect. Writing practice, even simple journaling, helps you actively produce language rather than just reproducing it. After shadowing sessions, try writing a few sentences about the content you practiced or your own thoughts on the topic. This active production complements the receptive practice of shadowing. Conversation practice, whether with language exchange partners, tutors, or friends, gives you opportunities to apply what you've learned through shadowing in real, unpredictable situations. The confidence and pronunciation patterns you develop through shadowing will automatically transfer to these spontaneous speaking situations. Grammar study can provide helpful frameworks for understanding the structures you encounter in shadowing materials, but it should support rather than dominate your practice. Use grammar resources to answer specific questions that arise during shadowing, but don't let grammar study crowd out your speaking practice time. The long-term journey to fluency. Fluency isn't a destination you reach and then you're done. It's an ongoing journey of refinement and expansion. Even after years of daily practice, you'll continue to encounter new expressions, accents, and contexts that challenge and develop your English abilities. Embrace this perpetual growth mindset. As you progress, your relationship with English will transform. Initially, it feels like a foreign code you're trying to crack. With consistent, slow practice, it gradually becomes a tool you can use with increasing ease. Eventually, for many dedicated learners, English becomes a comfortable second home, not replacing your native language, but expanding your world and identity. The calm confidence developed through slow, patient practice extends beyond language skills into other areas of life. The discipline of daily practice, the patience with gradual progress, and the courage to make mistakes and continue anyway, these qualities enrich your overall personal development. Fluency in English opens doors to new relationships, career opportunities, cultural experiences, and ways of thinking. Every minute you invest in slow shadowing practice compounds into these broader life benefits. You're not just learning to speak English, you're expanding your capabilities and possibilities as a human being. Conclusion: your path forward. The journey to English fluency through slow shadowing practice is simple but not necessarily easy. It requires consistency, patience, and a willingness to sound imperfect while you learn. But for those who commit to this path, the rewards are transformative. Starting today, you can begin building the habit that will change your relationship with English. Find 15 minutes in your schedule, select content you interest, slow it down, and begin shadowing. Tomorrow, do it again, and the day after that. These small, consistent efforts accumulate into remarkable fluency. Remember that speed isn't the goal. Clarity, confidence, and natural expression are what matter. By practicing slowly and deliberately, you're building a foundation that will support rapid, fluent speech when the time comes. Trust the process, enjoy the practice, and celebrate your progress along the way. Your English speaking journey doesn't require perfection, just persistence. Each day of slow, mindful practice moves you closer to the calm confidence that makes speaking English feel natural and enjoyable. The voice you're developing through shadowing will become your voice, authentic, expressive, and fluently English. Begin today. Speak slowly, practice daily, build confidence. Your fluent English future is waiting, and it starts with this simple commitment to slow, steady practice.